Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Delighted to have back in the studio with us today Doug Gould. He's the Executive Director of Foundations for Recovery, an excellent program, and they have an event coming up. But Doug, I'm just so impressed with what you guys do, and I like what you have here. Have you seen a miracle? Well, we're all miracles, but have you really seen one lately?
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going great at the foundation. We are excited. The local community is getting behind us even more and more, and we hold these events once a month called Shining the Light Dinners. And part of our events, we include a few testimonials of some of our clients who are going through our recovery program. And we have a little segment, part of the dinner called Have You Seen a Miracle? And so I brought a little sample in there. This is Nick. He's had 10 years of addiction in drugs and alcohol. He was held at knife point in a local hotel, and that was his bottom. He said, I had enough. Came through the doors of the foundation, and we worked with him personally with our recovery coaching, and now he's coming up on 9 months clean and sober.
Well, that's what the foundation is all about?
It is. It is. We have, right now, we have about 12 recovery coaches. And we're not clinical. We're not medical. We like to describe ourselves as experientially qualified.
Well, you know, that's what God uses.
Absolutely. We take, we're a firm believer that God never passes up on using a hurt in our life to help someone else. And that's what we do. We take some people with a heart of passion to help those who've been battered, beaten, and bruised with addiction. We train them through the Connecticut Center of Addiction Recovery peer mentoring model, meaning we don't put them in a group with a bunch of other addicts and alcoholics. We get them right there one-on-one with a recovery coach, and we love on them. You know, we support them. We have them set goals and complete tasks and take them to meetings and work with their 12-step program. And we begin to love on them so they can start loving themselves again. We provide hope so they can see that there is a better tomorrow. And we have an incredible staff.
That's wonderful. This little line here I want to share with our viewers and listeners. Estimates reveal over 17,301 people in Jackson County abuse or are dependent on alcohol and illicit drugs and are in need of treatment. 17,000.
Isn't that something?
How much of that is silent? We just don't know.
And that's the thing we're finding out. The more and more the community realizes that there is a faith-based, Christ-centered recovery program in the Valley, the more our doors continue to stay open. We are in need of support financially, of course, and that's why we hold these dinners once a month. We have great businesses that are sponsoring us. Bumgarner Landscape, Belfour Restoration, R.A. Murphy Construction. I feel like a NASCAR driver, just kind of let you know, Bobbio's Pizza.
You got them all down.
Oh yeah, Happy Camper RV, you know. But the more and more we put on these dinners, the more they see the testimonies and hear the testimonies. The support we're having. The 17,000, it's an amazing statistic. And when the viewers are watching this program, they say, well, how can my $25 a month reach 17,000? Well, look at it this way. You take one individual like a Nick, my $25 can help one individual. And that's what we do. And that's how we're supported, because we're not government funded. We strictly are funded by local communities, businesses, and churches and so forth. So,
well, let me encourage you to check it out. And if you know somebody that needs this kind of counseling, or maybe even yourself, maybe you've reached that point where Patrick Doyle so often says there are only two things that make you change: inspiration or desperation.
Absolutely.
So either God's really leading you to get cleaned up, or maybe you've reached the end of your rope and you're saying, all right, it's time.
Absolutely.
We'll give you a phone number here in just a moment. But also I want you to circle on your calendar next Thursday, March 21st. It's going to be at the 130 East Main Street there. And it is your... what do you call it? Share the light?
It's called
Shining the Light.
Shining the Light Dinner. It's at Sunrise Cafe, right there, local, right down Main Street, Ed and Carol's place. Great people, wonderful food. It's been sponsored. Seats are limited because it's a nice little intimate setting. So if you feel like coming and supporting us, call the foundation, 541-245-HOPE, or you can go online at lovefoundations.com.
All right, that's 254-HOPE, and that's also the number, that's 4673, by the way. That's also the number you can call if you've been struggling.
Absolutely.
So many people, it's that initial contact, it's that first contact. What can they expect?
A hug. just support. One of the things, a misconception that sometimes people have on faith-based recovery is that when a young person comes through the door, and when I say young person, we have a wide variety of ages. When you come Thursday night, you're going to hear a testimony of a mother of four, a grandmother who had 30-plus years of addiction to prescription drugs. You're going to hear the testimonies of a Nick who's in his mid-20s. You're going to hear a testimony of a gentleman in his mid-30s. So this is a widespread thing. And there's no respecter of persons in reference to drugs and alcohol. But when that client comes through the door, we just don't pray over him and read the scripture. We have the tools and the necessary training to support their pathway to recovery. There's no browbeating. There's no humiliation. There is understanding, because that person behind that desk has been there. And that's why we call ourselves experientially trained, qualified.
And I like the word coach.
Yeah, recovery coach, absolutely.
So you're just walking with them.
Absolutely.
And every length of recovery is different, I would assume.
It is, and sometimes you have the relapse. And one of the things that we do at the foundation is we feel that the young people are not a statistic. They're alive. They're a soul. And so once a week, we make a call to those who we haven't seen in a while, because the embarrassment of a relapse sometimes will keep them coming back through the doors. And there's no shame. We've all relapsed in recovery. And it's someone putting their arm around that individual and saying, you know what, it's okay, let's start again. Let's get to meetings.
Doug, how many of the folks do you minister to literally are at the end of the road, or they think, I'll give this a try? They're still, you keep track of that? We do.
It's just one of the things that we've noticed is that in the one-on-one recovery coaching aspect, our percentage, and the numbers are kind of hard to determine, but right now we're around 56% of success rate in sobriety, which it doesn't sound like a great number, but in all reality, the secular world of sobriety is maybe 5 to 8%. So we're 9 times over that average.
Wow.
But one of the things that we've noticed is that the revolving door aspect, Perry, of the young people that just keep going to a court-ordered program or something of that nature, and there's no connection, there's no understanding of a relationship being built. And I had one individual that came in and basically said, this was my last hope. And now this person's going on 14 months clean and sober. He came in with the attitude, he sat behind the desk, Perry, he said this, don't tell me about God, I'm here because my PO wants me to be at a program.
Whoa.
And I said, that's okay. Now, we don't kick them out the door because they don't have the same belief that I do.
Right.
They're there because they need support in their pathway to recovery. Within 9 months, his view on God changed, and he came in, he says, I think I believe in God now. And within that time, in 1 year time, I was able to pray with him, talk to him about the Lord, and it was amazing. And now he's going on 14 months recovery, and it's just that's the stuff we see every day through the door.
Wow. Wow. How difficult is it for somebody to make that first step?
The first step's the hardest. If you can admit that my life is unmanageable, step one, I'm out of control, and just come through the door and say, I need help. One of the things that we've noticed is there's shame and embarrassment. The idea of, well, if that person really wanted to stop, they could. We've all gone through some type of trauma in our life, and Patrick Doyle probably has talked about crisis counseling
right.
in his group. But the trauma and the pain that the person has gone through, if you have someone that understands that, it seems to help. But the fear of getting right through the door, being shamed, that's where we try to eliminate. There's no shame to come through the door and say, I need help.
Well, what I'm hearing you also say is I think some people are afraid they may immediately be put into a group setting. And you erase that.
We erase that.
It's very one-on-one.
Confidential.
Confidential. Yeah.
Private.
Well, let me encourage you, check it out, and you can call Doug and his organization, Foundations for Recovery, and that's 245-HOPE, HOPE, or 4673. But let me encourage you also to get out and support them. They got a great event coming up. It is limited next Thursday, March 21st, and it's called Shining the Light Dinner. And you're saying the seats are a little limited, so they ought to give you a call and get online. Huh?
And if they can't get to this event, we have once a month at the same place. So check us out online. And yeah.
What's your website? Oh, there it is. Lovefoundations.com.
Absolutely.
Well, I just think the whole thing is just terrific, and I can't tell you what the calls we get here. You know,
Sure.
It's kind of like we get the initial call, and we try to feed them out. But I also know that most people won't show up at your door until they're really, you know, they've reached a point where they just, this is it. I got to do something.
Well, I did it with my life. You know, I got to a point where I said, you know what? And what was so funny is I would go to Celebrate Recovery meetings, Perry.
Yeah.
And I would tell my family I went to a meeting, but I never got out of the car. I would just circle around the parking lot.
Wow.
But it was that first step going through the door, because I thought I was being embarrassed. There's nothing but hugs and comfort and support.
Well, you're another living example of something I've said over and over and over for 30 some odd years. Whatever God saves you from brings you through. He turns
Amen.
around and makes you a minister too.
That's right.
So Doug,
Amen.
I love your spirit, love what you do. Get out and support them. Give them a call, 245-HOPE, or go online, lovefoundations.com. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Perry.
God bless.
Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Well, I am really excited to have Bradlee Dean back with us. I just love this guy's spirit and attitude and his tenacity to get the gospel out into schools. And we wanted to follow up with him because the last time we talked to him, there was this kind of pending case where he was disinvited and then I guess got invited back. Bradlee, how are you, bud?
I'm doing good, Perry. How are you, man?
Good, good. Well, listen, give us the update. What happened to the school in Florida?
Well, we went back. I'd actually told Richard Mast from Liberty Counsel, you know, when we can get the doors back open for that particular school, go ahead and let us know what the deal is. And I said I will be back in Boca Raton, Spanish River High School the next day. And Richard Mast called me about a week and a half ago from Liberty Counsel, and he said, Bradlee, doors are back open. Let's get back in there and do the high school assembly. Went back inside of the school, packed classroom, great events. Case in points, it's a Haman and Mordecai situation here, Perry. The teacher that actually put the kibosh on the first meeting 3 weeks prior to my event in Boca Raton last Friday had to stay inside of the school and listen to my program and the entirety of it. He was actually the first guy, Perry, to come up to me and tell me thank you very much for bringing your message.
Really? After all of that? Wow.
Yeah.
What about the principal? How did he play into all this now?
He was fine. I mean, I think he could have really played the man by coming out and shaking my hand because what they were going off was misinformation, as usual. And he just basically held his ground. He did the right thing at the right time. He let us back in, and he was cordial about everything. As I said the first time we had talked, I think he kind of got caught in the middle of everything. So I don't think he stands guilty as charged. I think it was more this particular teacher. And again, this teacher had to listen to everything I had to say. So that's what the principal did to straighten out the whole message. Go listen to Bradlee's message.
All right. So, Bradlee, how do you get in there? I mean, you don't go in. I mean, you are an evangelist. I mean, you are an ordained minister. But what premise does the school allow you in?
Well, keep in mind, too, Perry, 70% of those that do high schools in this country are Christians.
Okay.
And how couldn't they be, right?
Right.
But in saying that, what we do is we just basically tell them that we're teaching them a constitutional message, which we are. And we show them the price paid for their liberties, which we are. But what I do in the process of that from A to Z is I tear down everything they thought they knew, and I bring them back to their foundations. George Washington rightly said the two pillars of society are religion and morality. And that's what I want to bring them back to. I want them to understand what mom and dad and grandma had that we don't have. So again, I just take them back to 1962 and what took place before then and what has happened since then. And I just tear it down and I bring them back up again, show them the price of liberty, and they want to stand up and know their foundations.
And how are the students responding?
Oh, awesome. I mean, let's put it this way. Every time we do a high school assembly, I'm literally mobbed after we're doing the assembly program. The kids want to know. They see someone willing to cross the lines for them, to love on them, to get in their face, to tell them things that nobody else is willing to tell them. So they respond accordingly. And it's usually, a lot of the schools that we've done, case in point again, Perry, we've done 2 and 3 and 4 times.
Yeah.
So that's been the response.
So what's this telling you, Bradlee? What's this telling you not only about education, but about this young generation that really is open to truth?
Well, I did a radio interview yesterday, and if I can just kind of interject it, I don't mean to take you off your question.
No.
But, you know, the fact of the matter is the church never lost the right to do what we've always done. What's happening is you get the ACLU and these other communist organizations in there that try to put the fear of man into you to deter you from winning your students. And I think it's important for people to understand that federal government is violating Article 10 of the Bill of Rights. They're now teaching your children International Baccalaureate or No Child Left Behind, where they're actually aiming for the floor rather than shooting for the stars. They're trying to equalize the playing field. And I think once parents realize that, wait a second, we're the ones being lied to, we're scared away for no particular reason. Actually, if you look at it in the light of truth, it's the ACLU that's violating the laws of our Constitution, not the Christians that are bringing forth their particular viewpoints into the public arena. And again, I think once people begin to realize that they're your kids, not the federal government's kids, I think then and only then will we go back and reclaim what belongs to us. These are our kids, not the federal government's, Perry.
You know, your incident back there in Florida, it all happened over one teacher complaining.
Right.
And what's so interesting about that is that I also know in public school, because this is an incredible debate, I get into it all the time, and it seems like there's no winning in this debate. However, inside the public school system, with all the union pressures and everything that these teachers have to live under, there are a lot of good Christian teachers and administrators.
Yep.
They're just trapped. They don't know what to do.
Well, that's exactly right. They're afraid to speak out because if they speak out too, loudly, what will happen is the media will get involved. They'll vilify them. They'll demonize them. And that's what they're afraid of. Almost without fail, Perry, when I'm doing a high about a minute ago, International Baccalaureate and No Child Left Behind, the teachers are in the back nodding their heads, agreeing with everything I'm saying. So in a lot of ways, I'm the guy that can come in and say what they want to say.
All right. Now, as this case now has been resolved in Florida, does that set a precedence for you and other organizations going into public schools?
Hopefully. I mean, that was the whole point of us going back into the high school in the first place, is because there was a 16-year-old student. His rights were violated. And I went back to Florida because I wanted to pass the baton to him and say, oh, no, your rights have been violated. You're being lied to. The community's being lied to. And I want to set the precedent. And I want you to understand that you have rights, not privileges. So to answer your question, Perry, that's exactly why I went back. A precedent has been set. This is the second victory that we have had just this year, along with Liberty Counsel. So I think what it takes is a little courage, standing up, proclaiming our land, proclaiming our possession, our rights again, and just saying, you know what, we're not moving from who we are. We are Americans, we are patriots, we are conservatives, and we are Christians. And we're not moving. We have the law on our side, and I just wanted to let you know that we have the law on our side. That's really what it comes down to.
That's wonderful. How can people get involved in your ministry and help you?
Go to youcanruninternational.com, youcanruninternational.com, and we have a My War series, which shows you everything, again, from A to Z as to what we do in public schools. It shows a couple kickouts, some confrontation, some contention, and the best way to support our ministry is to buy an 8-hour 5-part series called My War. And if I could just say this, Perry, before we go here, William Booth, the founder of Salvation Army, rightly said, if you want to change the future, then you're going to have to trouble the present.
There you go. Well said. Bradlee, love you, man. Keep up the good work. Thanks for the good report. Let's stay in touch, pal.
Amen. Thank you.
All right. See you next time. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
All right, I'm back, and we are got a special guest coming up. In fact, we actually got a new program coming to the Dove. It's called Everyday Relationships, and one of the hosts of that is Susie Larson, and she's written a book called A Beautiful Purpose. Really is a great book, and I had a chance to chat with her and to welcome her to the Dove Radio programming lineup, which will be starting here in about a week. So join me with my conversation with Susie. Well, I am so excited today to have somebody with us who's now a new host on the Dove Radio. Susie Larson's with us, and she's co-hosting a brand new program entitled Everyday Relationships with Dr. Greg Smalley. And you can hear it on the Dove Radio at 2 o'clock live in the afternoon, and it's a call-in show, and we've Skyped her in today to talk about it. Hi, Susie. How you doing?
Hey, Perry. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing fine. First of all, congratulations on the program. We're delighted to be a part of your network, and how's it going?
It's going well. You know, our goal is to enjoy life, to laugh a lot, but also to offer great biblical content. And that's what we're doing. And so we really want it to be like a safe place for people to show up, get equipped in their relationships, but also laugh a little bit too. So we're excited and it's going well.
Well, I'm just honored that we can carry the program. And again, it's heard on the Dove Radio live 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It is a call-in show, so you can talk to Susie and Dr. Smalley anytime and pour your heart out to them. Susie's also authored a book called Your Beautiful Purpose, Discovering and Enjoying What God Can Do Through You. There's a picture of it there on the screen, and let me encourage you to check it out. It is put out by Bethany House, so you might want to look at it at Evangel, or check it out at Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com. Now, when you wrote this book, you kind of had women in mind. Now, we guys, we have purpose, don't we?
So do, and I'm glad you asked. It's so funny. I've received a number of emails from men kind of covertly saying, okay, I don't want to say this out loud, but I cried through the book because it just wrecked them in a good way, where it's like it showed them I have to align my life with the purposes of God. And, you know, my speaking and writing audience is women. My radio audience, of course, is men and women. But yes, and so I am hearing from men who are saying, I'm getting a lot out of this, even though I know you aimed it for women.
Well, you know, we know the scripture where God talks about he laid out in advance for something for you to do, that purpose.
Yep.
Is there a single purpose or multiple purposes for people?
Boy, that's a great question. The way that I've really discovered it is it's multifaceted. The very first and foremost purpose for each of us as people of God is to walk intimately with Him. And from there, we do the next thing He tells us to. And then from there, we give Him access to our story, our wounds, our fears, and our pain. And then if we dare, we ask Him to do the impossible in and through us. And I think, Perry, that it looks different on all of us. Some have a real missional outward cause and purpose that God designed them for, but I don't think everybody does. My mentor, that woman spends 3 hours a day in the Word. She's a very hidden woman, but she influences a number of us who are influencers. And nobody will know about her, but heaven knows about her, and she's fulfilling her purpose. But what I will say is for all of us, our impact and our influence is to grow steadily as we walk intimately with God.
How did you find yours? What led you to yours? You're obviously doing it.
Yeah, you know, I really feel like I am doing what I was meant to do, but it started, I honestly have to say, I think the enemy sees our potential before we ever do. And when I was a little girl, I was about 9 years old, grew up in a great family, big family. I was actually, I'm going to just tell you a very personal part of my story. I was in the laundry room getting a change of clothes. I had 3 big brothers and 3 sisters. My brothers had friends over, and my parents weren't home from work yet. And I was not in the mood to be chased by a BB gun and, you know, the brother things that brothers do. And so I thought, I'm just going to get a change of clothes. I'm going into my bedroom. I'm going to shut my door, read a book till my mom gets home. And I'm digging in the dryer, and the door shut behind me. And it was a few of my brother's friends, and my brother wasn't around. We had a big house. It was kind of Grand Central Station. Within a few minutes of that time, those boys had me pinned on the floor, and you can imagine what happened. And it wrecked my life. And in that same year, about a year later, I was walking home from school and jumped by a different group of boys and beat up really bad. And so those 2 things marked my life, Perry, in a way that made me feel like you're not safe. You don't matter. I had multiple dreams of screaming and no sound coming out, almost like your voice doesn't matter. And honestly, I believed those lies in the depths of my soul. but I had some physical ability. I was an athlete. I could sing. I could do different things. So once I got into junior high and high school, I just became a performer, a striver to make up for that lost cause I believe myself to be. And long story short, in our early years of our marriage, married a wonderful, godly man, but our lives are just marked by crisis. Mostly me. I battled this disease. It was like I couldn't strive anymore. It's like God really, almost like when you hear about the shepherd when he breaks the sheep's legs so he can carry the sheep on his neck. I really feel like that's sort of what God allowed, because I couldn't strive anymore. So I was laid out by this disease. And in that place is where God showed me this crack in my foundation, that I'm not what I do. I'm someone God loves. And in the middle of that place, a woman called from our church, and she said, I know you're going through all kinds of hard stuff right now. She said, but I prayed for you. And she said, God gave me a picture of a platform that he's building with your pain that you're going to speak from someday. So lean in and learn everything, and you can in this place, because you're going to have a story to tell on the other side. And I know that's a mouthful and a lot to swallow, but the point being, all of the hardships were sending me a message that the enemy wanted me to believe. But in all the hardships, I realized God was using them to ready me to have a bold, feisty faith to help other people fight through and hang on to the promises of God, even when they don't feel true.
Did you battle something that you wanted to do compared to what you now found out that God's purpose was for your life?
Boy, that's a great question. You know, when that woman called me, I knew what she was saying was true, but it's interesting. When God awakens a desire in your heart, you suddenly notice everybody else is doing it and better. And you know. And,
so did you feel like Moses? You were stuttering or something?
And that's what happens. I think two things come up for us. Ambition, where it's like, Lord, how come she gets to do this? How come he's farther along in this? And so you want things to happen sooner than they are happening. Or self-preservation, where things start to happen, you're like, I think you might have gotten the wrong person. And so, you know, that fear and self-preservation kick in. So it's either ambition that makes us want to run ahead of God, or preservation that makes us fall behind. And that's why I feel like the process of preparation and all the battles we face are so important, because God is just, he makes us wait because he's getting us ready. And so if you look at the hardships as, you know, the financial issues, betrayal, I could be living out my dream if I wasn't dealing with this. Those are the things that prepare us for where he wants us to stand. He wastes nothing, and he makes warriors out of us. I really believe that, where we start to learn to stand on his promises even when they don't feel true.
Well, you're another living example of something I've said so often doing radio and television. That is, whatever God saves you from or brings you through, he usually turns you around and makes you a minister too.
Wow, good. That's good.
But in that process, when you realize, you know, God's calling you to a kind of a platform ministry, how do you handle the comparison of what you do versus others who do it that seem to be more successful than you?
Boy, you're just going right to the heart, aren't you? And all the Can you ask me about closet organization or something?
Well, I could ask fluff questions, but that didn't get anywhere.
Exactly right. I much prefer the deep question. That is so good, because to tell you the truth, Perry, people compare me a lot to Beth Moore, and they mean it as a compliment, but that enemy has used it to just pull the rug out from underneath me, because look at her. I mean, she's just, you know, I mean, really, and there is no comparison. Her platform is massive, but what they see in the comparison is we're both blonde, we both like to laugh, we both used to teach aerobics, we both have some sexual trauma in our history, and we're both very passionate about God's Word. But from there, I mean, you know, the comparisons sort of stop because of the level that God is using her and the way he's using her as a Bible teacher. I have to tell you that more than once has almost crippled me and made me feel like maybe I should do something else, because I'm not a Beth Moore wannabe, but look what she's doing, and the constant comparison is hard for me. I want to just be me, but I really have learned that, you know, we each have a story to tell, as you said, and we each have a way to tell it. And so if we can all be messengers of healing, what helps me a lot is when Jesus said, you know, pray for more workers, pray for more laborers. In other words, don't be threatened by the few, because there's more work than workers. And so whenever that comparison comes up for me, and I hear it about every week, I pray a blessing on her, because I can only imagine what her platform costs her to carry, you know. But then I ask, Lord, show me my story and put people in my path that I can encourage, because this isn't about her and me. This is about his kingdom coming and his will being done.
Now, the subtitle of your book really says a lot. Discovering and enjoying. It's interesting you'd put that word in there, what God can do through you. Elaborate on that for a few moments.
Well, because I would say that God's will for you and for me, it's our best case scenario. And so part of his will matches the desires he's put in our heart. And so often you hear people say, I almost can't imagine that God would have me do something that I would actually love. Now, this isn't about a self-realization, like be all you can be and achieve every goal you can imagine. It's about walking intimately with God. But in that place, you're going to find that just like Jesus modeled for us, you're not too small for big things and you're not too big for small things. And in those high and low places, in those places where he calls you to stand that you never otherwise could, or those humble ways he calls you to serve, it is the greatest privilege of all, because that's how our King modeled life. You know, I mean, that the King of the universe washed the disciples' feet, and he spoke a word and people were healed. And so when we start to walk with him, and really man's opinion starts to lose its power over us, where we say, you know what, I'm here for a purpose, for such a time as this, and part of my call all of my call actually will really match who he made me to be. Suddenly it feels like, you know what, his yoke is easy, his burden is light, and this fits. And you know, I would do what I do for free because I love it so much, and I know I'm called to encourage the troops and help people stand in the battle. And so when you start to walk in the purposes of God, you really do enjoy it. You do. And not to say you're not opposed, not to say that you don't have battles to fight, but they're winnable battles. And every single one of them, you come through stronger on the other side when you trust him.
The book is entitled Your Beautiful Purpose, Discovering and Enjoying What God Can Do Through You. There's a picture of it there on the screen, Susie Larson. And let me encourage you to check it out. It's put out by Bethany House. I'm sure that Evangel can get it for you, or Discount Christian Books in Jacksonville, or even Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com. And check it out. It's a powerful book. And again, the brand new program that Susie and Dr. Greg Smalley co-host on the Dove at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It is a live call-in program. And I love the levity in it, because I just think we're just so cynical these days. Us Christians, we got a lower lip that's dragging on the floor. We got to pick it up and become a better billboard for the Lord, don't you think?
Absolutely. That's our goal. In fact, you know, you said before, there are shows that you listen to that maybe even they subscribe to your same belief system, but if when you're done listening, you're ticked off, it's not bearing the fruit that you want, right? And so we want to be encouraging, but we are going to laugh, because we both love to laugh.
That's wonderful. Susie, you're a delight. We'll have you back many more times. The best to you, and thank you for you and Greg doing what you're doing. We're delighted to carry your program, and let's get together soon again on TV, okay?
Would love that. Glad to be part of your family, Perry. Thanks so much.
God bless.
Bless you.
Well, there you go. And the name of the book is called A Beautiful Purpose, and the show starts on the Dove Radio in about a week. Well, coming up next, all the way from Israel, we're delighted to have David Rubin in the studio. We'll be talking to him next here on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Well, we Skyped him in all the way from Israel, but today he's with us live in the studio. I'm just so honored to have with us today David Rubin. He's the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, which is in the region of Samaria, or better known as the West Bank. He's authored quite a few books. I have his new one right here. It's called Peace for Peace in the Middle East, and Israel in the new Middle East, right there. There's a picture of it on the screen, and we'll tell you where you can get a copy of that. He's lecturing in the area, and he's been around. He's been down in Phoenix. He's going over to Bend. He'll be back in Grants Pass. And before we get into our discussion, Grants Pass, 10:30 Sunday morning at what church?
At the Lions Gate.
Lions Gate. All right, so for you folks there in Grants Pass, you may want to go visit that church Sunday and hear him speak. Nice to have you.
Well, good to be with you.
I'm just so delighted to Skype you in when we've had you the few times. And you've said a couple things in our previous interviews that kind of put my brain on tilt. And I just thought, you know what, we need to rethink some of these things that we're dealing with as Christians when it comes to Israel. But first of all, the president's heading to Israel. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, the president is coming on a a mission to smooth things over in public and to intensify things in private.
Yeah.
And, on the outside, we're not going to see any of the pressure that's going to be put on Israel. We're not going to see any of the tension most likely in the relationship between Obama and Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister. What we are going to see in public is a lot of warm and fuzzy statements about the unbreakable bonds between Israel and the United States, and how the relationship between the United States and Israel is rock solid. That's what we're going to be hearing from President Obama in public.
Right.
In private, it's going to be another story. In private, he's going to be putting intense pressure on Israel to withdraw from its biblical heartland, which is Judea and Samaria, the regions that surround Jerusalem, Samaria north of Jerusalem, Judea south of Jerusalem, the areas that the world calls the West Bank, that most people call the West Bank. Even though it's just a fictional term, it's not any term that you're going to read about in the Bible.
Right, right.
So this is what's going to be happening. There's going to be pressure, intense pressure in private, and sweet words and smiles in public.
All right, now this is his first visit since he's been president, long overdue, and yet his treatment of Netanyahu when he's come to Washington is all but, well, it's been embarrassing. Quite frankly, it's been disrespectful. But Prime Minister Netanyahu goes and addresses the joint session of Congress, and it's still noted as one of the great speeches of all time. He had an incredible response to that speech. I have played excerpts of that speech on the air several times. I would say that Prime Minister Netanyahu, at least in today's world, he is the representation of the true free world at the moment. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think so to some extent. I would like to see him looking to biblical principles a little bit more in making some of his decisions.
Such as?
Such as the whole problem of the peace process. You have to understand that the peace process does not equal peace.
Right.
The peace process for 35 years has been a case of banging our proverbial heads against the wall for the cause of land for peace. And land for peace, or the two-state solution, whatever you want to call it. And what it means basically is Israel carving out that chunk, that big chunk from its central mountain range, and which is Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank, and handing it over to the Palestinian Authority, which is a quasi-governmental agency that is basically a band of so-called respectable terrorists.
Yeah.
And Netanyahu doesn't seem to understand that you can't do that. That if you do that, then you are committing national suicide. And I think he understands the dangers, but he's willing to take the risk. And I don't think that Israel can afford to take the risk.
All right, now he just recently came through re-election, and he had to put together a majority. He's done that. Does that majority represent his point of view, or what you're saying?
Well, it's a mix. I would say probably a majority of that coalition represents his, what I would call, centrist point of view, whereas there is a very strong minority in his coalition now that represent views closer to my own. It's not an accident that my book is called Peace for Peace.
Right.
Because, as I said, we've been pushing this land for peace formula for 35 years. It hasn't worked. All it's brought to us is thousands of Israeli terror victims. And it's time that we start adopting a new formula, which is peace for peace. If they're really sincere about peace, then they will extend their hand in peace unconditionally, just as we are extending our hand in peace unconditionally. They've never done that.
Yeah.
They are demanding a step towards Israel's destruction. That's something that we should not be doing.
You know, as much as I respect George W. Bush, I strongly disagreed with his two-state Israel policy. And I think that, quite frankly, that policy damaged him greatly in the end. Where is Israel in the two-state policy? I know you're against it.
Well,
are the citizens for it?
Increasingly, no.
Okay.
The Israeli population has started to understand the dangers in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when a poll is presented and says, "Do you want to have two states living side by side in peace?"
Yeah, no such thing.
Then you'll get a majority in the polls. But when you say, "Do you want to have the Palestinian Authority, which represents terrorist organizations, overlooking our one international airport from the high mountains of Samaria," then you get an overwhelming majority that says no. But that would be the practical implication of handing over those territories to them.
All right. Where is Netanyahu with the red line on Iran? He said we're there. What does there mean?
There means we're very close to the point where they will be able to produce nuclear weapons.
Now, our administration say we're a year out. Why wait? Netanyahu is saying we're there. So you expect something to happen?
I think that the meetings are going to be very intense next week, and I'll tell you. I said it's going to be all smiles on the outside.
Yeah.
That's before the meetings.
Mm-mm.
Once they've had their meetings, it's very possible that we're going to see on Netanyahu's face, even if they try to keep it private, he has a hard time hiding it. If the meetings have been intense, if intense pressure has been put on the Prime Minister, it's going to show.
All right. In the meantime, we are sending Israel very mixed signals. We're saying, yeah, we got this strong bond. We don't want any daylight between our relationship. On the other hand, we're sending F-16s and we're sending all kind of weapons to Syria and beyond. How do you interpret that?
Well, the Middle East is up in flames right now. It's not an Arab Spring. It's not a pro-democracy movement. What we're seeing is what I call an Islamic tsunami, which actually is the title of my previous book.
Yeah.
An Islamic tsunami, meaning the spread of Islamic fundamentalism throughout the Middle East, and particularly Israel's neighbors like Syria and Egypt, where the Muslim Brotherhood carries heavy weight, and also Al-Qaeda in Syria.
Mm-hmm.
That's who President Obama is giving financial aid to. 60 million in Syria to the Muslim rebels. It makes no sense. According to American values, you would think that he would be standing up for American values in the Middle East. He's not. And that has created a very dangerous situation for Israel. And I'm very concerned about this, and most Israelis are very concerned about this. Netanyahu as well is very concerned about the rise of Muslim fundamentalism throughout the Middle East and the United States' role in that.
All right. Now, if Israel decides to neutralize Iran's nuclear capabilities, you're going to have pressure from the north, from Lebanon and Egypt at the same time. Is Israel prepared to handle protection all the way around, including neutralizing Iran at the same time?
Well, the Israel Defense Forces have been actively at work in preparing for this possibility and eventuality for a long time. We're aware that there are well over 100,000 missiles being pointed at Israeli cities as we speak, from the Hezbollah terrorist organization in Lebanon, from the Hamas terrorist organization further south, and from Syria itself, and from Iran. So it's a very, very dangerous situation, which we are well aware of. Our leaders are hard at work in preparing for that possibility, and whether it's going to come from them offensively, or whether we're going to have to respond, or whether we're going to have to launch a preemptive strike. That remains to be seen.
All right, let me just plug the book one more time because I have one more question. It's called Peace for Peace, Israel in the New Middle East, David Rubin. Let me have you check it out. It's put out by Shiloh Israel Press. Can they get it at Barnes & Noble, Amazon? Do you know?
It's up there on Amazon.com, and there's also a phone number, 1-800 431-1579. They can dial directly and order it.
Okay, get a copy of this book. The last time we talked, David, you said basically to us Christians, you guys re-elected Obama. And that was in response to the question that I asked you. Certainly, you understand the faith community in America is with Israel, but you said, yeah, but you re-elected Obama. A stunning response. A stunning response. I got incredible residual effect from that response. What do you want the Christian community to do to show our support? Put pressure on the White House? Send you an email? Send Netanyahu?
Several things.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I'm not saying that all Christians voted for Obama. Obviously, that's not the case, but many Christians didn't vote.
Right.
And so
that is the case.
So ultimately, he got elected. There are several things that people who care about Israel, who want to stand with Israel, should be doing. Number one, pray for the United States-Israel alliance. Number two, be actively involved. Tell your representatives and write to them. Send 2-sentence letters telling them that you want them to be not just standing with Israel in some sort of amorphic way, but you want them to be against the Land for Peace formula. That the Land for Peace formula is dead. We have to start talking about peace for peace. A fair, equal arrangement.
Right. All right. What else?
And I think that people should stand with Israel in practical ways as well. You know, the organization that I started after my son and I were wounded, the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, is a concrete way of standing with Israel.
Let me encourage you to check that out. Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, as David and his son work together on, and it really does remarkable thing. And they can Google that. And
they can Google it. They can just go to ShilohIsraelChildren.org.
Okay, ShilohIsraelChildren.org and support them there. Wish I had a week with you. You'll come back and you'll be speaking again coming up this Sunday back in Grants Pass, 10:30 at the Lionsgate Church. So you may want to visit him there and get his book, Peace for Peace. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
God bless you, my friend.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.